Hello and welcome back to the Snakebite, our weekly sports show that airs every Tuesday at noon. I'm 𝘂𝗂𝗳𝗏𝗂𝗃 with James Simpson. Thank you for joining us here at FSC TV. Boy, it's been 2 weeks since you've heard us last. A lot has gone on. James, let's start getting him caught up on all things Mocs and athletics.
It's good to see you after the long spring break. And let's start with a quick run through as a lot went down, like you were saying. Let's start with our basketball scoreboard, where we've got you the update on the 6 games that went down this little spring break stretch. Let's start with the Sunshine State Conference Tournament, which saw both teams make waves among their conference rivals. The women's team began their postseason with a win over Lynn in the first round of the tournament, beating the Fighting Knights 65-57 before taking down 17th-ranked 𝘂𝗱𝗲𝗳𝗃 for the 3rd time this season, and that punched their ticket to the championship game.
Yeah, really gritty performance from that women's team. James, especially with that win over the Tritons, they would go on to travel to Tampa for the SSC championship game and took the Spartans to overtime after Julia Janicki banked in a fantastic three-pointer at the buzzer. Mocs would ultimately lose, but wound up punching a ticket to the NCAA tournament with their performance in the second half of the season. In the first round of the tourney, the Mocs fell to 𝘂𝗱𝗃 in their 4th meeting of the year. It was really great basketball. Both teams played really well, shooting-wise, defensively. But one team had to come out on top, and it was 𝘂𝗱𝗃, who was finally able to figure out Florida Southern, winning 69-64, effectively ending the season for the women's team.
Yeah, John, that was a heartbreaker, but it was a great year, and they'll retain a lot of youth in the coming years, so the optimism is there. On the men's side, if we can get that scoreboard back up, you'll see that the team took down the University of Tampa in what was an unbelievable game for Xavier Rhodes. The Mocs beat the Spartans 80-78 as Rhodes scored 20 points, including the game winner, and that win would set them up with a meeting against Nova Southeastern University, who to this day is still undefeated. The Sharks beat the Mocs with help from a big second-half run to continue their undefeated season. The Sharks went on to win the conference title and make the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, James, really a tough break for Florida Southern, who had a fantastic second half of the season, really parallel to the women's, and probably deserved to make it into the tournament. They had an at-large bid stolen away due to doing an upset in one of the other conferences in the South region, and there's really not much you can do about that. You know, a couple good teams are going to be left out, and that's where Florida Southern fell there. Well, let's shift focus to the baseball team now and get a look at how they did these past couple weeks. As you can see, they have been really busy and have performed well, save for that Augustana series that they were swept in. After some non-conference games, they'll get back on the SSC grind with a 3-game series against 𝘂𝗱𝗃 this weekend.
Yeah, and this is a team that's caught a little bit of fire. They've faced a lot of adversity with injuries, some tough breaks here and there, and overall they're holding their own as they head into the brunt of their SSC schedule, with every opponent from now on competing in the Sunshine State Conference. Duncan Hunter and Jeff 𝘂𝗃𝗃𝗃 continue to lead the pack as they lead the team with 23 and 21 RBs respectively. 𝘂𝗃 has done a good job stepping up in the Mocs pitching rotation, and Brant Brown is doing well too as they each have 6 games under their belt so far.
Yeah, no kidding. They're starting to catch a little bit of steam, and we all know Sunshine State Conference play is some of the most competitive. Well, we'll get a new look at their counterparts at Chris Bellotto Field, a softball team which had 4 games this past week against a couple tough opponents. Back on March 9th, the team won on a walk-off sacrifice fly from 𝘂𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃, breaking an 8-game losing streak and giving Lane Edgington a complete game victory, her 3rd win of the season. The team went on to lose the back half of that doubleheader before falling to Tampa twice as well.
Yeah, and John, this is a team, they're 7-12 on the season, have had some highlights. Jaden DeWitt leads the team with a .411 batting average. Maya Moy with her 12 RBIs leads. She has a .381 batting average. This is a team that's looking to rebound with their home DH meeting against Bloomsburg University tonight.
And a little doubleheader action. You got to love it. Well, let's take another look at the lacrosse scoreboard now. With both the women and men engaging in some heated competition this past spring break. Let's start with the women, who had 3 games in 6 days. First, the University of Findlay on March 4th as the Mocs trounced the visitors from Ohio 20-4. They then took on the University of Mount Olive. Hardly better competition despite being the 19th ranked team in the country. A little bit tougher competition against Wingate University, but still the Mocs were able to come out on top, winning their 3rd straight. They now have a record of 4-1 heading into their final 2 games of their opening homestand against Alabama Huntsville and Colorado Mesa.
Yeah, and that lone blemish this season was against Queens University in a really tough, really close game. And that team is considered widely to be one of the best, if not the best, in the country right now. So the Mocs are looking good, rebounding nicely. They've seen goals come from all over, but it has been Ellie Griffin and Abby McFerrin leading the offense thus far. Griffin, a freshman, leads the team with 13 goals, while McFerrin has scored 20 points so far with 9 points, both numbers being team best. Patricia Worker and Brittany Yamali have each done well in the cage for the Mocs, as the team has combined save percentage of 47.1% through the 5 games.
Yeah, and they've had a nice stretch here, and as I mentioned, will continue their homestand this week. Well, let's look at a couple other sports here as we had the tennis teams dominate as of late. The men's team has won all 4 matches this month and are now ranked 25th in the country after taking down 2 nationally ranked teams over that stretch. The women's team has done well too as they've won 6 straight now and moved to 7-2 on the year. Plus, James, they've got a date with the University Huskies today in just a few hours right here at the Winnie Worden Tennis Center. Division I.
Yeah, that'll be fun, getting some of that top competition for the Mocs here at home. But let's look at golf, where the men's team came out of Vegas with a 2nd place finish behind a 3rd place finish from Johnny Tucker. The 20th ranked team is competing right now, actually, as they're in Valdosta, Georgia, at the First Federal Southeastern Collegiate. The women's team is competing for the first time in nearly a month in Orlando at the 𝘂𝗱𝗱𝗳𝗲𝗳𝗃 Memorial Invitational. And for updates on both of those competitions, you can check out FSCMocs.com.
Yeah, you sure can. Let's take a look at swim as they just finished competing at the NCAA Championships, capping off what was a very successful year for that program. The men's team performed incredibly. They took 5th place as a team, including a individual national championship for 𝘂𝗱𝗱𝗳𝗃𝗱𝗳 in the 100-yard breaststroke. He also took 2nd in the 200. The Mocs came away with 32 total All-American honors at the meet, just coming up huge on the grandest stage when they needed to most, setting numerous school records along the way. As did the women's team. They performed great as well, coming in 26th overall, their best finish in a few years now as a team, while earning 6 All-American honors of their own. The teams now head into the off-season in preparation for what's going to be another busy fall next year.
Yeah, and we also saw the track team compete at the 2nd UT Distance Classic, and Mason Jones setting another school record in the 5K, making me eat my words after he said he might have to get into a bit of a faster race. He basically ran it solo once again after a really tough guy from Embry-Riddle dropped out about halfway through, just couldn't run away from Mason Jones. 𝘂𝗱𝗱𝗳𝗃𝗱𝗳 had a really strong top 5 finish in that 5K race, and we saw a lot of girls get their first 5K experience on the track, a lot of young men and freshmen too. Things are looking up for the Florida Southern Mocs track team, who will compete next at Lee all the way up in Tennessee this Saturday.
Nice road trip. A little cold though. Well, that brings us to our Week in Mocs History segment, and today we're looking at the men's golf team's performance at the Southeastern Collegiate in Valdosta, Georgia. The squad placed first out of 17 teams at the competition, eventually going on to win the SSC Championship that season, just about a month after the Valdosta meet concluded on March 18, 2008. You bet that team will go on to win the regionals too, before finishing 6th in the country that season. Well, James, the Mocs are competing at the First Federal Southeastern Collegiate 14 years later this afternoon. Perhaps, could this be an omen for the future? Do they have a little bit of the luck of the Irish in their favor? We'll find out soon enough. Well, that's all we got from you this week on the Snakebite. I'm 𝘂𝗱𝗃𝗳𝗃𝗃 with James Simpson. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next Tuesday at noon.